Well, today I am thrilled to chat with Lisa Painter, the head of client and leadership experiences here at Kustomer. Thank you so much for taking time to chat today.
It's great to be here. Happy place.
So, to get us started, can you share a bit about your journey in customer experience and then what led you to this role?
Yeah, I've been in customer service for over 25 years. So my first job out of university was working for a customer service focused company. I led customer support. That led me into also kind of growing my team into account manager. So after 10 years of that, I spent 15 years in customer success. This is where I really started to grow my community with executives. And what started as a side hustle maybe 10 years ago is, turned into the dream role. I love what I do. I love connecting people. So that's led me to customer. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I love that. Love that something that was started as a side hustle, became your main hustle. Love hearing those stories. So we are thrilled you're here. And I really just want to dig right in, get into the insight. So, what can brands get out of hosting their own customer community or advocacy group?
Definitely customer retention. So when you invite someone to a community, you're hand selecting them. You want to bring them additional value outside of your main product and services you provide. And so when they feel like they're, got something special being part of a community, that helps them be loyal to your brand, which kind of goes to my kind of second value or benefit of having a community is, if they've got a really great experience with you, they're going to be loyal to your brand and they're going to make your brand have more awareness because they're going to say great things about you and that's what you want. And so when they feel like they've got this special place to meet with peers and to be helped or help others, they will definitely be loyal to your brand. And then another benefit of community is almost like I guess soft selling. It helps you grow your revenue. So if your customers are talking about what they're getting out of your product and services, and kind of sharing best practices and how they're doing it, that will just organically lead to others being interested in what they're doing and then perhaps taking advantage of the same things. And then I guess another kind of side benefit that I see with community is co-creation. So as you think about all the conversations that happen in the community, you will learn a lot about their business so that you can be thinking about how you can innovate and create and do things 12, 18 months from now. So all of those things I feel like are really wonderful benefits to the customer, and it's what brings people to a community.
Great. Well, I love when things are a win-win. So I'm wondering if you could speak to some of the things that the group members get out of participating.
Right. So having a community isn't just about the benefits to the business, but it is also what they will get out of it. And one of the things that I've seen, and I mentioned this earlier, but I tend to cater to that executive persona. So people in decision-making roles, leadership, executives, they love to come to community meetups and get kind of insights and strategy insights. And so they may have big bets for the next 12 to 18 months. And so to be able to come and hear what others are doing is very valuable in a community setting. And then peer validation. If you've got something that you're thinking about doing or you're considering, being able to throw it out to your peers of, this is what I'm thinking about doing and hearing, them validate that, yes, that's good, but you should be considering X, Y, or Z. Again, very, very powerful. And then mentorship and growth. So if you're in a leadership position, there's a really good chance that you enjoy mentoring others. And so, having that opportunity to lean into someone that's in a service leadership role that may be a little kind of newer to the role is, very validating. But then we're also always learning, right? So no matter who we are, we always want to learn. And so having, getting mentored or growing by, learning from others is always very important. And then one thing I always like to add is if you're going to have a community pulled together where they are engaging about your brand and helping each other, we should be rolling out the red carpet. And so one of the things we definitely tend to do, and what we'll definitely do at customers too, there'll be VIPs. So anytime we're doing an event or something special, they'll always be invited, they'll always be included, and we'll make sure that, they know that they're very special to us and that we want to just give them the special treatment.
Right. And as you mentioned earlier, one of the benefits that the business gets is that customer loyalty. And this is a great way to show that in return that it's not just a one-way street, that, if the customer is loyal to the brand wants to be loyal to the customer and things like exclusive invitations are great. as well as just participation. And truly, I really do love when things are a win-win and providing that sort of good community insight makes us all feel good and build our networks in like an authentic way.
Sure.
So then let's dig in. How can CX leaders start a group for their customers or clients like easily or efficiently? They just want to get something off the ground. How would you recommend that someone start?
Yeah, definitely. So you want to understand the persona. You may be going for, multiple personas, but you want to always make sure that you segment those communities because again, if we keep using the example of the one that I lead, is executives want to show up and have conversation, and what they don't want to do is to be muddied down with maybe product details, things that are really important to say an admin, which is very valuable, and that community needs to talk about admin features and product specifics, but you always want to keep those communities kind of separated by persona. So I would say that's kind of number one. Value messaging. So you're going to want to approach them and invite them to the community, but make sure they understand like what's in it for them. Who else is going to join? So that kind of goes back into making sure that your personas and making sure your communities are segmented in a way so that they'll know I'm going to show up, I'm going to meet my peers, and I'm going to get things like valuable insights. I'm going to get peer validation, all those things we had talked about earlier, Hope. And then I would say that another really great thing to remember would be time commitment. So when
Right.
you approach them, you want to know, hey, we meet monthly and for an hour. Sometimes we'll do some, in-person experiences where we'll meet for a half day. But as an executive is kind of weighing whether this opportunity is really going to fit my needs or give me value, but also is it going to fit into my schedule? You always want to be really upfront and honest on that.
Right, that's great because there's all different types of customer communities, whether there's something informal online or whether it's this more curated kind of like a cohort group. That makes a lot of sense to make it really clear kind of what get your own, plans in order of what this is going to look like and then make that clear so that way everyone knows what they're signing up for. So then next up, I'm wondering what about the optimal group size? How many members should someone invite for their first group or maybe every group?
Yeah. Well, when I first think about size, when I think about an actual meeting happening, and we do ours over Zoom, we really want it to feel, since it's an executive, that it feels like a meeting. This doesn't feel like over engineered. They're going to pop into a Zoom and meet some peers. I always try to have about 25 at each of those meetings. And so when you start to think about, well, how many we're going to invite and how many might actually say, yes, I want to be part of it, you should have your goals in mind. So really be specific about, I want 100 members. And so therefore, if I have 100 members, knowing that about 50% of the time they show up, that kind of helps you let you do the math. But I would say percentages have been pretty consistent for me. So about 20% of those people that you invite, so let's say 100 to keep the math easy, they're going to be they come to every single meeting. They don't miss one. This is like absolutely their happy place. And so that's about 20%. And then about 30%, they'll come about every other meeting, maybe every other, two meetings. And so in the end, about 50% of the people that you invite are actually going to be like active members. And then 50% of those active members will actually show up to your meetings. And so I feel like those are really good numbers to kind of go off when you do your math and then making sure that you're hitting your goals. I definitely recommend don't try to invite the world. Be really, really targeted about who you invite because you want to be able to iterate and add people and be looking for maybe certain personalities. And so if you just kind of go all in at once, you may end up with a community that isn't as valuable as you were hoping.
Right. If you try to be, obviously inclusion is great, but when you are trying to get like rich, specific, qualitative feedback from customers, you can only really do that with so many people at once. Otherwise, it then just kind of turns into like a survey group, which is a different, kind of insights that you can gather. So that makes a lot of sense that you may need to shoot a little bit higher, knowing that not everybody is going to engage. And that's really great insights on that kind of percentage that you've seen will engage versus those who are maybe a little bit less engaged, but still want to be part of the club. So,
And then
um,
as you grow as you grow with the business and the program, then you can add maybe more meetings so that you can keep those group size to a minimum, right? But I mean, just getting started, don't try to boil the ocean. Start small, baby steps. I promise it'll pay off.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. As you said, if you're speaking to executives, maybe they don't need the product news, but then maybe once you have kind of a good process going. You could have a product focused
Yeah.
or service focused for different, different users of your service. So makes a lot of sense that you should keep it segmented so that way it can stay on track and add more value.
Yeah.
Then next, I'm wondering how frequently should these groups meet?
I would say about for executives once a month. I think if we're thinking of other personas, like maybe admins, they may be good for once a week or every other week. I think it's also worth to say for executives, we tend to do Zoom. They want to talk and interact and see each other or do it in person. But there are a lot of personas that really care about the product that they will engage on an online platform. For executives, I tend to set up a Slack community that's kind of what they're already doing. Most people use Slack. And so they're already in there, they're doing their work in there, and they can just pop over into our workspace, maybe connect with a peer or post a question. They don't tend to frequent kind of online communities where there's a lot of like conversation about technology. It's just not it. But people who care about the technology, they may just be interacting every day. But I would say there's still that to say have something a little bit more formalized to say, okay, let's all come together and maybe have a conversation. That's still very important. So it's not all written.
Right, absolutely. You'll get more, I think, richer insights when you can ask a follow-up question or when somebody hears from another peer member in the group and then that sparks an idea. But then for technical things, doing it online is great, especially if you are cross-referencing, technical information, or maybe they have a tech product or service pulled up in another window. So different strokes for different folks. So that makes a lot of sense. Really, really love that for, kind of the more Zoom-based cohort rather than more of a passive online community, how long should that membership be? Should it be ongoing or a finite time period? And, what have you seen works best?
One of the things that I have seen is about every 2 quarters, I'll go and look at our members. And if I notice there are members on there that haven't attended a meeting, I'll just reach out. I'll say, I notice you haven't been to a meeting in a while. I just want to know, are you still interested in being part of our community? Would you like me to take you off of our communications and take you off the invites? And I would have to say, Hope, 90% of the time, they're like, no, no, please don't take it away. Because people love to be included in something that's really unique and curated to them and, what their needs are. But they always have a reason. Oh, we've, been had a lot of change in our business and I've had to kind of like recalibrate how I use my time. But please keep me on and I'm gonna attend the next one or I'm gonna like really strive to take one in the next quarter. So that's always a good way to kind of just gut check or take a health check on whether that person that's like used to be a community member really makes sense still. But definitely you should do some spring cleaning. You don't have to do it all the time, but I would say at a minimum every couple quarters.
That's great, right? Like we prune our flower bushes when they need a little bit of love. It doesn't mean that, we're cutting back, but that's really great to give people the option if they want to come back and participate. Maybe they just need a little reminder, and that shows like, hey, we
Yes.
thought about you. This wasn't just like a mass market email that we sent to everybody and you can kind of decline and we don't care if you're there. Like we really do want you specifically there. Some
Yeah.
people just kind of need that reminder, especially if maybe this might be one of their first times participating in a community like this. So that's really great, to kind of do a check-in every few months or so, to keep the group more active and, so it doesn't fizzle out. So that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. And before we wrap up, I'm just wondering if you have any other tips that you'd like to share for a successful customer or client community that I didn't even think to ask about.
Yeah, I mean, probably some of it's come out, so maybe it's like a little bit of a recap, but definitely keeping it simple. You do not want to over-engineer. If it feels over-engineered or like kind of like, I don't know, super froofy and bougie, it may not feel like, oh, this is a safe space to be talking. This seems like a little bit kind of like pie in the sky type stuff. So keep it simple and also customer-driven engagement. 95% of the talking and the conversation should be the customer and between the customers. Yes, we're going to need to be the host and make sure they all get there and set a foundation and kind of ground rules for each of those meetings, but we want them to be connecting and sharing with each other. Another thing is the focus on relationships and outcomes. And what I mean by that is when you focus on relationships, you put the right person in charge of leading the group. It has to be someone who really enjoys connecting people with others. And so it is like a dream job for me. I love it. It gives me all the warm and fuzzy feelings when I join a community call and I see people connecting and enjoying each other. So I love that. And then the outcome. So if we say that they're going to come and meet their peers and they're going to be able to validate their strategy, validate their strategies, we need to make sure that that's happening. So if it starts to kind of be going the wrong direction, or you feel like maybe some members are taking it in the wrong way, you got to take action and kind of explain the ground rules of the community so that they'll truly get what you say they're going to get. And then the last thing I would say is capturing what we learn from each of those and then sharing it. And that is sharing it with the people who attend and other members of, hey, this last community that we had, these were kind of like the key takeaways or like the really valuable sound bites. But I think it's also really good to put that back into the business. So you run these communities to improve the customer experience, help your customers grow. One of the things that I will often say is I love working with executives. I cater to that persona because I'm also catering to their people and their organization. I'm catering to their customers, hopefully helping them cater their bottom line because what we're learning in that community is going to help drive those outcomes. And so I think that everything we learn from that community, if we can put that back into the business so that we can all learn and be better, then we are, doing everything that a community is set up for in regards to a community like this, like a business community. So I would say those are kind of three main tips that I would have for our listeners today. I hope this has all been valuable.
I think so. I think it's great. It sounds like the kind of key thing is to have the right amount of structure. You don't want it to be over engineered where it's too complicated, but you don't want to have no ground rules where it just feels like a social call. Having a little bit of infrastructure like a plan, but not overdoing it on the technical side can make sure that people know that there's a purpose and that there's kind of a little bit of an agenda. So I think this is a really great infrastructure that anyone can get going. All you need is Zoom, and everyone's already got some kind of video conferencing tool. We all have these resources at our disposal. I know that I've helped work with advocacy groups in the past, and we've kept it simple. So I'm glad that that's still the move, here in 2025. So I think that's great. And I hope that, our listeners today feel encouraged to take this on because it's pretty accessible. So thank you so much, Lisa, for taking time to share with our audience and speak with me. I know I learned a lot and I'm really excited to share this with everyone else. And hopefully CX leaders feel inspired to take this on as an initiative as they're doing their planning for the rest of the year.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in today.